In today's episode, we explore a powerful insight that can completely transform how you view your life and relationships. It's a simple truth that, when understood, can lead to lasting happiness. Your struggles in life, whether personal or emotional, have one main cause: your obsession with what others think of you. The constant search for approval from those around you, whether family, friends, colleagues, or society, is the silent driver behind many of the unhappiness you experience. This cycle of seeking validation from others creates fear, stress, and insecurity. But here's the key. True happiness and freedom come from letting go of that need to be liked and embracing the courage to be disliked. In this video, we delve deep into the teachings of the courage to be disliked, co-written by Japanese philosopher Ichiro Kishimi and author Fumitake Koga. Their philosophy is grounded in Adlerian psychology, which teaches us that all of our struggles stem from our relationship to others. But the root of unhappiness lies in our attempts to control how others perceive us. Kishimi and Koga argue that there is no such thing as a problem or worry that's entirely internal. Our anxieties and fears are always linked to the external world. They explain that internal worries don't exist as independent forces. Instead, every worry is shaped by the opinions and judgments of those around us. According to Kishimi and Koga, life seems complicated because we've created this web of concern over what others think. But in reality, the problems we face are often simpler than we perceive. The authors suggest that all of life's challenges can be solved if we stop seeking validation from others and focus on living authentically. The only thing you truly need to find happiness, they argue, is the courage to be disliked. Freedom, they explain, comes not from being liked by others, but from being indifferent to their judgment. When you stop caring about the opinions of others, you stop being a slave to their expectations. And that's when real happiness and freedom emerge. They emphasize that the courage to be happy is inseparable from the courage to be disliked. Once you free yourself from the need to be approved by others, your relationships will feel lighter, and your life will take on a new meaning. So in this episode, we'll explore the key lessons from the book, particularly the psychology of unhappiness, why seeking external approval is ultimately a dead end, and how to cultivate a life of freedom by embracing the courage to be true to yourself. One of the foundational ideas that Kishimi and Koga bring forward is that, no matter your past experiences, everyone has the potential to be happy. However, there's a catch. Happiness is a choice, and the main difference between happy and unhappy people lies in their willingness to change. This is where Adler's theories come in. According to Adler, the self is not a fixed entity. Rather, it's a unified whole. Our body, mind, emotions, and both conscious and unconscious thoughts all work together to achieve one common goal. In this sense, everything we think, do, or feel is directed toward achieving this goal, whether we're fully aware of it or not. For Adler, the self is not something we are born with, but something we create through the goals we pursue. He didn't focus on fixed personality traits, but instead viewed people through the lens of their lifestyle. Our habits, emotions, thoughts, and actions come together to form a lifestyle that we consciously or unconsciously choose. And this choice is made because we believe it's the best way to reach our goals. Kishimi and Koga expand on this idea, showing that the goals we set for ourselves shape how we feel, how we behave, and ultimately, how we see the world. For example, Kishimi and Koga argue that there's no such thing as a truly antisocial person. Instead, they propose that antisocial behavior is a strategy, a choice people make to pursue a certain goal. They take this idea further, suggesting that our emotions are also shaped by the goals we set. You decide on your goal, and then your emotions will follow to help you achieve it. For instance, imagine someone is preparing for a job interview. They might feel an overwhelming sense of anxiety that prevents them from even preparing, let alone attending. From their perspective, they might think that if only their anxiety would go away, they would have a better chance of landing the job. But Kishimi and Koga would argue that the person's real goal isn't to get the job, it's to avoid the risk of failing the interview. Fear of failure is the emotion that helps them avoid that risk, even though it's not in their best interest. Kishimi and Koga also challenge the notion that past trauma is a permanent barrier to happiness. They acknowledge that negative experiences can impact us, but they argue that we still have the power to choose our goals and our future. They write that no experience in itself determines whether we succeed or fail. Instead, it's how we interpret and give meaning to those experiences that shapes our path forward. The authors argue that no matter what has happened to you in the past, it should have no bearing on how you live today. You are the one who has the power to shape your future. This leads us to a crucial point. If happiness is within our control, why do some people choose to stay unhappy? Kishimi and Koga explain that unhappiness is often used as a strategy. It's not always a result of external circumstances, but rather a coping mechanism people adopt to avoid confronting deeper truths about themselves. They argue that unhappiness often stems from the goals we set for our relationships with others. In particular, the need for approval or validation from others can lead to chronic unhappiness. Most unhappy people, Kishimi and Koga suggest, make the pursuit of others' approval their main goal. They believe that happiness comes from being seen as good by others. Whether this approval comes from parents, teachers, or society at large, it leads to a constant cycle of striving for perfection and never quite feeling good enough. The desire for validation, they argue, isn't natural. It's a learned behavior based on a need to feel worthy. While many might argue that seeking approval is a part of human nature, Kishimi and Koga disagree, explaining that we don't seek approval for its own sake, but because it satisfies a deeper emotional need. The authors explain that this constant seeking of approval is not only unfulfilling, but also comes with a heavy price. In the process of trying to meet others' expectations, we sacrifice our own autonomy, our freedom, and ultimately, our happiness. To live a life in constant pursuit of others' approval is to live according to someone else's standards, not your own. You become a slave to their expectations. So why do so many people fall into this trap? The truth is, many people fear being disliked. They are more concerned with avoiding rejection than with embracing their true selves. But as Kishimi and Koga point out, unless you can stand the possibility of being disliked, you will never experience true freedom. The courage to be disliked is the first step to living authentically, to following your own path, and to building relationships based on mutual respect, not on external validation. This video will explore these ideas further and show you how to begin shifting your mindset from one of seeking approval to one of embracing your own values. You'll learn how to stop living for others and start living for yourself. The pursuit of external approval is ultimately futile, and true happiness comes from within. By the end of this video, you'll understand why seeking approval is a never-ending cycle and how to break free from it, ultimately finding the courage to live a truly liberated life.